very much for coming out to our 4th annual event to remember Milton Friedman on his birthday. He would have been 98 years old today. My name is Abdullah Kim Shabazz, soon to be your semi-host and MC this evening. For those of you who do know, and more importantly for those of you who don't know, I'm the morning show host of Fox News Talk 1430 WXNT, and also attorney over at Lewis & Wilkins, right in the heart of downtown Indianapolis. They said they'd pay me $30 if I got that in there, so. And you guys see Paul Mullen, he owes me $30. Don't let him dart out of here first. No, this is just one of 67 events in 5 countries taking place today. Our good friend Robert Enlow could not be with us today because he is at the, believe it or not, the Friedman Foundation event in Las Vegas. Yeah. So tomorrow morning he's going to wake up on the roof with a missing tooth and Mike Tyson's tiger. For those of you who don't know what that means, go rent The Hangover on Netflix. So, no, the theme of this year is Meet Milton at the corner of School Choice and Main Street. We're all here today because we all do believe in individual liberty, individual freedom, personal responsibility, and tied into that is the whole principle of school choice, giving parents, the power to send the children to the school of their choice, and thereby, good competition makes all of us better. I want to start out tonight by recognizing the members of the Friedman Foundation staff, just by not by name, but if you can just raise your hand for a staff member, we can just give them a round of applause. They're over there. But the very special mention goes out tonight to Gordon St. Angelo, who's the President Emeritus of the Friedman Foundation School Choice. Because if it wasn't for Gordon, we wouldn't be able to do all this. So please give Gordon a big round of applause. As one of the founders, Gordon Rose and Milton Friedman started the foundation 14 years ago, and today they are the leaders in the school choice movement here nationally. We're going to hear from our special speaker in just a minute, but what we'd like to do for you all right now is just show you for a few minutes a special video that was put together by our friends at the Friedman Foundation to show you just how important school choice is. Next, if you guys want to know something really scary, Jeb Bush, Ben Stein, and John Stoss have all been on the morning show, so that means I got to put in the call to Phil Donahue. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker for today, I can tell you a lot about this gentleman, but I will just let his words speak for himself. Our keynote speaker for today, for the next couple minutes, Mr. Bob Compton. Bob.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here. They asked me to keep my remarks to 10 to 15 minutes, and in 10 to 15 minutes I can't even explain the word pithy. But I will try and make this as pithy as possible. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I was a venture capitalist for 20 years, and started traveling to India and China back in 2004, 2005, and saw what they were doing in education, became very concerned about what we were doing, and wrote a book on the subject, which was read by 4 people, and including my mom and dad. And so I decided to make a film, and the first film was called 2 Million Minutes, and 2 million minutes is the amount of time you live during any 4-year period, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 4 years, 2 million minutes. And what the film shows is it traces how high school students in the US and China and India allocate their 2 million minutes, because they all have the same amount of time, and the question is, how are they allocating it? And that film, much to my surprise, got a lot of attention, and I've actually spoken around the world, from England to India to Indiana about it. But my first screening was at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. And I graduated from the Harvard Business School, which is on the right side of the river. So I went there thinking, I'm bringing fresh knowledge to open minds who will eagerly embrace me and be grateful, and perhaps take me to dinner. And I just was very excited. To make a long story short, I showed the film. I was booed. This is the faculty, so these are who knows what the students would have done. I was booed. I took a 2.5-hour, what they refer to there as a ritual stoning, by the senior faculty, including Howard Gardner, all of whose works I had read and I have now burned them. these are the most closed-minded, egotistical, arrogant, uninformed people I have ever met outside of a religious cult. And they are guiding, in many ways, the U.S. education system. So we should be, I think, somewhat nervous about that. So what I want to I just want to hit on a couple things here. I've got a few notes on my Chinese-made iPhone. I am always honest with the audiences, as you can tell with the Harvard Graduate School of Education. I'm always honest, and so when I'm going to talk about what I call the 5 C's, as in the letter C, of what America has to do to be educationally competitive in the 21st century. And so I am going to give you the answers. But first, what you need to understand is, as I give you these answers and explain them, you are going to go through what Ms. Kubler-Ross referred to as the 5 stages of dying. This is the 5 stages of educational truth. So you'll go, as I talk, you'll go through denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Now, you won't go through all of those. Most people don't get past anger. So if I think this is given the man we're honoring here tonight, or remembering here tonight, I think this is a relatively receptive audience, so I'm hopeful you get to bargaining but not depression. So let me just tell you the 5 C's of what America must do to be competitive in the 21st century globally. And actually, just a quick footnote, there are 2 countries in the world, speaking about being kind of globally aware and globally integrated, there are 2 countries in the world that are not on the metric system. Can anybody name the 2 countries? The U.S., and what's the other one?
England.
No.
Canada?
Nope, Liberia. So we can dominate the Liberian marketplace with our products. Anyway, that's a tangent. So the 5 topics I want to talk about are culture, curriculum, credentials, compensation, and choice. So let's talk about culture first. I was in Xi'an, China last week, and it's a big city, booming city that is most well known for the terracotta warriors. But I was interested in what was going on in the education there and also what was going on in the economy. And what was interesting was the newest building there, actually a building complex, and the one that they are most proud of is the Xi'an Polytechnic Institute, which is I haven't posted it yet on my blog, but I will get it up there, just a spectacular facility, and has 20,000 Chinese students studying engineering at one university, Xi'an Polytechnic, which you will have never heard of. So when you go into Xi'an, the biggest building, the biggest complex, the thing they're most proud of is an engineering school. So I'm driving in from the Indianapolis airport. What's the biggest building in Indianapolis? The Lucas Oil Stadium. You know what that screams to me? Physics and engineering are incredibly important in Indiana. Because that's where we put our money.
That's a problem.
So culture, more than anything, and very few people talk about this, the American culture is not geared for the 21st century. We do not respect academic achievement. We do not respect intellectual achievement. Although a lot of credit has to go to Governor Daniels. As some of you may know, the last 3 years in a row, he has granted, or he has recognized a Mr. Math, Mr. Science, Miss Math, Mr. Science for 3 years. Also has recognized with a trophy and scholarship funds the top young scientists through the science fair. So those are the kind of cultural things we have to do. And I know that that Hoosiers get it the day no one shows up for an IU basketball game because they're over at the U.S. First Robotics competition. Because they realize those are the kids that are going to grow up to create the new technologies, to create the new companies, to create the new industry, to create wealth in this state. So, you all are probably in anger right now. Curriculum. Even with how many of you remember the new core standards? The 17, I think 17. So I've been studying this very carefully. I own a company here in town called Indian Math Online, and the math on our system is built to the Indian standards. So we've now been comparing that against the new mathematics standard for the core curriculum. Our core curriculum is below the global standard. Now it's way above what all but Massachusetts have, but it's not. So what we're going to do is we're going to teach our children to be 75% as good as the rest of the world. And that again gets to kind of our myopic, U.S. focus. We assume we're the best, and if we're raising the standard, it must be the best in the world, and that's just not the case. The next one, credentials. To teach physics in high school in India, or to teach physics in high school in China, you have to have a bachelor's in physics and a master's in physics, and a teaching certificate, which takes you anywhere from 3 months to 6 months to get. My daughter took physics as a freshman in a private school where I offered to pay for a physicist to come in and teach. Instead, took physics from a teacher who was right out of College of Education, had only taken biology, and had never taken a physics class. So she was 1 chapter ahead of my daughter for the first few weeks, and then my daughter was ahead of her. Because I went out and hired a physics tutor. And my daughter loves math. In fact, she's going to Vanderbilt, and she hopes to be an oncology researcher. Loves math and science. And in India and China, if your kid does well in math or science, you hire a tutor to see if they can do better. In America, if your kid's getting an A, okay, we got that covered. Total opposite from what you see in India and China. So the credentialing, if we do not, and by the way, I was just in Korea a few months ago. Korea is the same way. You have to have a master's it just seems kind of logical that you would have to know the subject you're teaching and know it in enough depth to be able to approach every child a little bit differently. And if you've ever been in a class with a teacher who is a master's or PhD in physics, they're very excited about that subject. That's why they got all that education, and they're able to excite the students, and we don't do that. So our credentialing of teachers, I think, needs to change significantly, and obviously the teachers union will fight tooth and nail to make that not happen. And so the next thing is compensation. There are very few industries where everybody is paid the same based on how many years they've been with the company. Obviously, the education industry is that way. It turns out there's this thing called supply and demand. There are not as many good physics teachers as there are good English teachers, and we have to be willing to accept, and the school culture has to be willing to accept, some people are going to make more money than other people, depending on their skill set. The skills that are in demand are going to have to be paid at a higher rate. So that's compensation. And then choice is my last comments, and then if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. There is tremendous school choice in every country but America. I'm in China, and the Chinese have developed this incredibly innovative concept where it's called the money follows the student. I thought it was brilliant. I'm starting to like communism more and more. The money follows the student. So if the parent's not happy with the school where the child is going in their neighborhood, because they're assigned based on, not zip code, but based on their area. If they're not happy, they can go to the other school, and the money flows to the school in the other county. That's not what they call it, but the other county. So in China, there's lots of school choice at K through 12. And lots of parents that I've talked to take advantage of it. What happens is a school over in this district has great physics teachers, great chemistry teachers, great math teachers, because you need those great teachers, because you're going to take one exam, the NCAA, the exam to get into college. The college application, by the way, in both India and China is your name and your score on an exam. That is what they, I'm not saying that's right, that's just what they do. And so parents are eagerly trying to get their students into the best schools. So if there's a great school in Terre Haute, for example, parents will go to extraordinary lengths, transportation-wise, they'll make lots of sacrifices to get their student there, and the money would travel from IPS to Terre Haute. There's also tremendous choice in India. 50% of the students in urban India go to a private school. And their expectations that within 10 years, there will be no government-run schools in the major cities in India because they can't compete. And these private schools do charge money. In the Indian household, the budget runs like this: shelter, food, education, and then clothes, and way down the list is football or soccer. So choices exists around the world except here. And so what I'm seeing in India and China, they have India, China, Korea, Vietnam, Finland, Sweden, Singapore, Germany, almost every school system that I've visited are in countries where the culture values education, where they credential their teachers with the knowledge that they need to teach, where the curriculum is set at a very high level. I mean, you talk to teachers in India or China or Korea, and you talk about how do you set your curriculum? Well, we look at what's going on in the world. What a novel concept. Compensation runs differently. If you have a PhD in chemistry and you're teaching in high school, you make more than somebody who has a master's in history. They just pay what the market demands. And finally, the students and parents have lots of choice. So this, and the one discouraging thing about this film with Dr. Friedman is that he understood this. He understood choice and freedom of choice. What is it, 55 years ago now? Oh my God. We're still talking about this 55 years later, when the rest of the world talked about it for a year or two. Take a quick example would be Finland. Finland was an agrarian society. I have a new documentary coming out this fall about the Finnish education system. And it's totally counterintuitive. They don't start school till they're 7. In high school, they have 3 hours of homework a week, but they produce the #1 ranked math and science students in the world. What it tells me is that all the schools I've seen is no one system is the right system, and therefore choice is the only system that works. So, thank you very much.
The funny thing is when Bob said, the people who were talking to me, they were arrogant and self-centered, I was like, hey, they sound like my kind of people. Then I realized who I was talking about. I was like, oh, man. Thanks. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Bob Compton. And by the way, a couple interesting things of note. We have a special guest here in our audience tonight, Dr. Tony Bennett, Superintendent of Public Instruction. And if you ever get a chance to sit down and talk to Tony, he won't tell you too much about his career as a basketball coach, and that makes perfect sense once you hear it. But we're friends, so we can say this to each other. But he will tell you that when he came to the Department of Education, his rule was pretty simple, pretty clear. Is it good for kids? That's the rule, that's the standard, that's also what we're here for. So, Dr. Bennett, good to see you tonight. Also want to thank the members of the host committee for the Friedman Foundation for Educational Choice, Craig Atkins, Jenny Carlton, Ben Hunter, Leah McGrath, Angel Rivera, Marley Springer, Jim Bleak, Deborah Daniels, Julie Habig, Tom John, Paul Mullen, Karika Rausch, Christina Trexler, Rado Britt, Scott Enright, Dave Harris, John Ketzenberger, Marty Ops, Russ Simnick, Scott Wallsmith, Pedro Cardosa, Jay Hine, Brian McGrath, Jeff Papa, and the guy who used to work for me, but now he's a libertarian because he does like it paid, Chris Spangle. Is also Now, the nice thing is about a host committee is, if you're on the host committee, you agree to bring people to the Friedman Foundation event, and we get you a nice little gift. So a couple of people got some honorable mentions for bringing folks. So if Jeff Papa and Russ Simnick could come up, we have a couple gifts for you. If not, I'll keep it.
Go to go stage, just get alcohol. Thank you.
You can tell these gifts were picked out by Robert Enlow. And for our good friend from the Indiana Leadership Forum, Jen Carlton, who brought the most visitors tonight. Jen, we got the basket for you, so congratulations. Where are you? I'd say if you will take it, I will. So. You also get a year's supply of rice for running the San Francisco treat and a copy of our home game. Once again, want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. By the way, if you are a supporter of School Choice and the Friedman Foundation, right outside the hall and right down the hallway is what they call the video booth. What you can do is just express your thoughts, about how you support School Choice, and we use that to get the word out for everybody. And so we appreciate you all coming out this evening and being big fans. Like I said, the last time I checked, the bar is still open, food's still available. Thanks again for coming out and supporting the Friedman Foundation for School Choice. Happy birthday, Milt. Thank you all very much.